Welcome to my live teaching learning session of Principles of Macroeconomics BECC 133. Today is your fourth session of this macroeconomics paper. Today we will discuss about consumption function, which is very important topic in this macroeconomics. And consumption function topic was also introduced by John Maynard Keynes, means J.M. Keynes. Under this unit, we will discuss about meaning of consumption function and saving function, assumptions of psychological law of consumption, what factors affect consumption and saving function. This topic will also discuss in this unit. Next is propensity to consume. Propensity to consume has two types: average propensity to consume and marginal propensity to consume. That will also discuss in this unit. And relationship between APC, APS, MPC, and MPS. This topic, consumption function, is very important topic. Under this topic, we will know about what is consumption and what is consumption function. Consumption means to satisfy our needs and wants. If we consume goods and services for the satisfaction of our wants, that is called consumption. But consumption function shows functional relationship between income and consumption. Consumption function, we can say that in other words, a function which shows the relationship between planned consumption, expenditure, and disposable income in an economy. Now, what is planned consumption expenditure? Planned consumption expenditure is that expenditure which we are planning to spend on consumer goods or consumption of any goods and services. And disposable income is that income which is received after paying the direct taxes. If we deduct direct taxes from our money income, then we can get disposable income. And disposable income can be freely spent on consumption and saving. So consumption function shows technical or functional relationship between planned consumption and planned income level. Next is saving function. Saving function shows functional relationship between income and saving. As you know that consumption and saving both depends upon the level of income according to J.M. Keynes. Classical economics said that saving and consumption depends upon rate of interest. But J.M. Keynes said that consumption and saving depends upon the level of income, not on rate of interest. Because firstly, when we have income, then we can consume. If rate of interest falls, then we can spend more and save less. But this is secondary factor. The first and initial factor on which consumption depends, that is the level of income. So according to J.M. Keynes, consumption function always shows functional relationship between income and consumption. And saving function shows functional relationship between income and saving. Next is Keynes' psychological law of consumption. The consumption psychological law was introduced by John Maynard Keynes. This is very famous law which is introduced by J.M. Keynes. What is the definition of this psychological law of consumption. According to this law, Keynes said that consumption mainly depends upon our level of money income. As you know that if our income is zero, we will not stop our consumption level because without consumption we can't survive, we can't live. So consumption will be in continue, either our income is zero or increases. If our money income is zero, consumption will not be zero because everybody will consume goods and services for their survival. Without the consumption of goods, we can't live or we can't survive. So, at zero level of income, consumption cannot be zero. The minimum level of consumption which exists at the zero level of income, that is called autonomous consumption, which is denoted by A or C bar. Keynes said that as well as our income rises, consumption also rises. If our income increases more, then consumption will also increase more, but not by the same proportion, not by the same ratio. Because as well as income increases, our income will divide it into two parts. One is consumption and other is saving. Further, if our income rises, then consumption and saving both will rise, not only consumption rise. So, psychological law of consumption said that as income increases, consumption increases, but not by as much as the increase in income. It means if our income is zero, consumption will not be zero. At zero level of income, minimum level of consumption always exists. That is called autonomous consumption. As well as income rises, consumption also rises. Further, if income increases more, then consumption will increase, but not by the same proportion of the level of income. Because consumer don't spend entire money income on consumption. He will save money for their future uncertainties. And to protect himself for the future uncertainties, saving is very important. In other words, marginal propensity to consume. Marginal propensity to consume is the ratio of change in income and change in consumption. Its formula is delta C upon delta Y. Delta C shows change in consumption and delta Y shows change in income. So MPC always remains greater than 0 and less than 1. It means consumption can never be 0. That's why MPC always greater than 0, and we don't spend our entire income on consumption. That's why consumption always remains less than 1. So, the main property of this psychological law of consumption is that consumption depends upon our level of income. It's our mentality. It's all the consumers' mentality that at zero level of income, they will consume. Definitely, their consumption will not be zero. As well as their income rise, consumption also rise. If income increases more, then consumption will increase, but not by the same proportion, because if income increases more, then income will divide it into two parts. One is consumption and other is saving. Further, if income increases, then consumption and saving both will increase, not only consumption will rise. So this is the mentality of all the consumers, that is called psychological law of consumption, which was propounded by J.M. Keynes. And according to J.M. Keynes, marginal propensity to consume is actual the ratio of change in consumption and change in income, it remains always greater than 0 and less than 1. Next is, what are the assumptions of psychological law of consumption? There are three main assumptions of this psychological law of consumption. The first assumption, according to J.M. Keynes, is there should be no change in psychological and institutional factors. It means consumption should depend upon only the level of income, not on other factors. Because if income rise, consumption rise, income falls, consumption falls, at zero level of income, minimum level of consumption definitely exists. That is psychological law of consumption. It means no one other factor should affect the consumption. But as we know that consumption can be affected by so many other factors like size of population and taxation policy of the government and monetary policy of the RBI, and consumption may be affected by the rate of interest. Consumption may be affected by the taste and preferences of the consumer. But in this case, GM Keynes assumed that all the factors remains constant, then only consumption will based on or depends upon the level of income. This is the first assumption, that there should be no change in other factors or psychological and institutional factors. Second assumption is that there should be normal conditions exist in the economy. It means that economy should work in a normal situation, then this psychological law will exist. It means that normal conditions are that conditions in which no inflation, no deflation, no war situation, and no hyperinflation, no natural calamities like flood, drought, cyclone, earthquake occur in the economy. If there is not any abnormal condition exist in the economy, then this psychological law of consumption will exist. It means economy should work in a normal condition, not in abnormal conditions. Abnormal conditions are like war situation, inflation is rise in price level, deflation means fall in price level, hyperinflation means very much increase in price level or too much increase in price level when the value of money falls and the purchasing power of money falls. That is called hyperinflation, which is very dangerous situation for the economy. And there should be no existing war conditions and no natural calamities should occur in the economy, then this law will be applicable. In this third assumption is economy should be laissez-faire. It means economy should be capitalist or without any interference of the government. If government does not interfere in the economic activity, then consumption mainly depends upon our level of income. So that economy should be capitalist. According to J.M. Keynes, Keynesian theory and the all law of Keynes mainly exist in capitalist economy, not in socialist economy and not in mixed economy. Because Keynes assumed that there should be laissez-faire economy, that is capitalist economy in which all the factors of productions are owned by private entrepreneurs, all have freedom to choose any business enterprises. Here consumers and producers both are free, and profit is the main motive of this economy, and all the central problems like what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce are solved by price mechanism. Price mechanism is a system in which price is determined through the intersection of demand curve and supply curve. So laissez-faire economy exists in USA economy. USA economy can be, say that, capitalist economy or laissez-faire economy or independent or invisible hand economy. Invisible hand economy is that economy in which government do not interfere in any economic activities. So these are the three assumptions of for the applicability of psychological law of consumption. And these three assumptions are: first is there should be no change in psychological and institutional factors. It means consumption mainly depends upon the level of income, not on other factors like taste and preferences and the size of population, rate of interest, government taxation policy, monetary policy. These all factors should remain constant. Then consumption depends upon only the level of income. Second is in economy, there should be exist in normal conditions, not abnormal conditions. Then this law will be applicable. And third is economy should be capitalist or laissez-faire, in which government don't interfere in any economic activity. Then this law will be applicable. Next is proposition of law. The proposition of this law is increased aggregate income leads to increased aggregate consumption, but a smaller amount. It means as well as income increases, consumption also increases, but not by the same ratio. Second is, further if income increases, then income will divide it into two parts. One is consumption and other is saving. So these are the two propositions of this psychological law of consumption. Next is saving function schedule and consumption function schedule. Consumption and saving function schedule shows tabular presentation of different quantities of the consumption and saving at different levels of income. When we show different levels of consumption at different levels of income, that is also known as propensity to consume. And propensity to save shows different levels of saving at different levels of income. So in this table, we are showing that what is propensity to consume and what is propensity to save. Propensity is intention. What consumer want to consume at different levels of income. As we know that consumption can never be zero. At zero level of income, minimum level of consumption definitely exists. So that if income is zero, then consumption is showing the minimum level of consumption is 20. It means this 20 is autonomous consumption. And this autonomous consumption is the minimum level of consumption which always exists at zero level of income. When income is zero, consumption can't be zero. At that time, saving will be negative. If we deduct 20 minus income level 0, 0 minus 20 is equals to minus 20. If income is 60 and consumption is 70, then saving will be minus 10. It means in the beginning, saving will always negative. After that, saving will become 0. And at last, savings start rising. But consumption in the beginning always remains positive. After that, consumption increases. And as well as income increases more, consumption also increases, but not by the same proportion of income. That's why if income is 0, consumption is 20. and saving is minus 20. Saving we can calculate by taking the difference of income and consumption. The formula of saving is Y minus C. It means income minus consumption is always equals to saving. In simple words, saving is that part of our money income which is not spent on consumption. If our income is 60 and consumption is 70, then saving will be minus 10. If income increases from 120 and consumption is also 120, both are equal, then saving will be 0. When income and consumption both are equal and saving is 0, that point is known as break-even point. So break-even point is that point where income and consumption are equal and saving will be 0. If income is 180 and consumption is 170, here income increases but consumption not increases by the same proportion of income. In that case, saving will be positive and plus 10. Next is if income increases from 180 to 240 and consumption also increases but not by the same proportion of income, that is 220. In this case, saving will be 20. So this table is showing that consumption can't be 0 and consumption definitely increases as well as income increases but not by the same proportion of income level. And in the beginning, saving remains always negative. After that, saving becomes 0 and at last savings start rising. So this table is showing propensity to consume and propensity to save. Further, we will study about what are the different types of propensity to consume and propensity to save. Now next is, this is the consumption function curve. In this diagram, consumption curve always start from the y-axis, not from the origin, because consumption can never be 0. At 0 level of income, consumption definitely exists. That's why consumption curve always start from the y-axis, not from the origin. Here on x-axis, we will take income level and on y-axis, we will take consumption expenditure. And consumption function is equals to C0. Here C0 is autonomous consumption, which shows the minimum level of consumption at 0 level of income. And this small c plus cy, here small c is indicating marginal propensity to consume, which is the ratio of change in consumption and change in income. And marginal propensity to consume is the function of income. That's why here c is multiplying by y. So this is the consumption function. Consumption function is equals to C0. Here C0 is autonomous consumption and small c is denoting and indicating marginal propensity to consume. We can denote by B. B is also MPC. You can denote any other variable like C, B and any other thing you can take to denote marginal to consume. And Y is the level of income because consumption always depends upon the level of income according to J.M. Keynes. So consumption curve always start from y-axis, not from the origin. This is the diagram of consumption function. Next is saving function. How we can draw saving curve? As you know that saving can be negative, can be 0, can be positive. So saving curve, in the beginning, saving always remains negative. So saving curve always start from the below point of the origin. It's not start from the origin because saving in the beginning always remains negative. That's why it always start from the below point of the origin. At that time, saving will be negative. After that, when it touches to x-axis, then saving will be zero. And at last, when saving curves start rising and upward sloping, that is called that as well as income rises, saving also rises. In this case, saving will be positive. So saving curve always start from the below point of the origin, which shows, and after that it start increasing. It shows that saving in the beginning will become negative. After that saving will be zero, and at last saving will be positive. The saving function is always equals to minus a plus 1 minus b y, or we can write in this form minus c0 plus 1 minus small c bracket close y. This shows because autonomous consumption shows minimum level of consumption which always exists at zero level of income. If autonomous consumption is 20 at zero level of income, at that time saving will be minus 20. If autonomous consumption is 10 at zero level of income, then saving will be minus 10. So minus A or minus C0 shows that in the beginning saving is always negative. After that saving start rising. And B shows MPC, and MPC is the ratio of change in income or change in consumption. So MPC, if we take the difference of 1 minus B or 1 minus C or 1 minus MPC, that will be called MPS. So if MPC is 0.8, then 1 minus MPC is equals to MPS, that will be 0.2. So saving function is minus A plus 1 minus B y. Next is kinds of propensity to consume. There are two types of propensity to consume. One is APC and other is MPC. First is average propensity to consume. Average propensity to consume is the ratio of consumption and income. And marginal propensity to consume is the ratio of change in consumption and change in income. According to Kurihara, the average propensity to consume is the ratio of consumption expenditure to any particular level of income. And according to Kurihara, marginal propensity to consume can be defined as the ratio of change in consumption expenditure to a change in level of income. Next is the formula of the calculation of APC is C upon Y. Here C is consumption and Y is income. And the formula of marginal propensity to consume is change in C divided by change in Y. Change in C is delta C, and change in Y we can write delta Y. So the formula of MPC is delta C upon delta Y. These are the two types of propensity to consume. As I have told you that what is propensity to consume? Propensity to consume shows the different levels of consumption at different levels of income. And it has two types, that is APC and MPC. APC is simple, the ratio of consumption and income, so that APC can be calculated by dividing consumption to level of income. And MPC is showing the ratio of change in consumption to the change in level of income. These two kinds of propensity to consume are very important. Next is we can show the relationship between APC and MPC, or what is the difference between average propensity to consume and average propensity to save. First of all, I would like to say you that what is APS? Average propensity to save is the ratio of saving and income. It is clear by its name. This is APS, average propensity to save. First of all, propensity to save is the ratio, or propensity to save shows different levels of saving at different levels of income. And same as just as APC is the ratio of consumption and income, but APS is the ratio of saving and income. So APC is the ratio of consumption expenditure to the corresponding level of income at a point of time, and APS refers to the ratio of saving expenditure to the corresponding level of income at a particular point of time. APC can never be less than zero because consumption can't be zero. At the zero level of income, minimum level of consumption definitely exists. That's why APC can't be zero. Can't and can never be less than zero, because at zero level of income we have consumption, which is known as autonomous consumption. APS can be zero, can be negative, and after that APS can be positive. APS, average propensity to save, can be less than zero. Less than zero means negative. That is called dis-savings. Because at zero level of income, consumption will not be zero. At that time, saving will be negative. So APS can be less than zero, or it is known as dis-savings, till consumption is more than national income. And how we can calculate APC and APS? The formula of APC is C upon Y, and the formula of APS is S upon Y. Next is relationship between APC and APS. As you know that APC shows the ratio of say consumption and income, and APS shows the ratio of saving and income. And what is the relationship between APC and APS? The sum of APC and APS is always equals to 1. APC and APS at certain level of income is the slope of the line joining from the origin to the consumption or saving function at that certain level of income in an income expenditure diagram. When we draw diagram, we write on x-axis income and on y-axis consumption to show APC. APC curve always start from the y-axis because consumption can never be less than 0, or consumption can never be 0. But APS curve always start from the below point of the origin, because saving always in the beginning remains negative, after that it becomes 0, and at last it start rising. Next is APC, APS, MPC, MPS. As you know that MPC is the ratio of change in consumption and change in income, and MPS is the ratio of change in saving to the change in level of income. APC is the ratio of consumption and income. If C is divided by Y, then we can calculate APC. It is the percentage of income which people are likely to consume. APS is the ratio of saving and income, S divided by Y, and it shows the percentage of income people are likely to save. The summation of APC and APS is always equals to 1. MPC is calculated by dividing change in consumption to change in income, or delta C upon delta Y is equals to MPC, and MPS is equals to delta S upon delta Y. Delta S is change in saving divided by change in income. The summation of MPC and MPS both are equals to 1. It means if we want to calculate APC and if we have given APS, then we can deduct the value of APS from 1. 1 minus APS is equals to APC, and 1 minus APC is equals to APS. Same as 1 minus MPS is equals to MPC, and 1 minus MPC is equals to MPS. Because the summation of APC and APS is equals to 1, same as the summation of MPC and MPS is equals to 1. Next is relationship between MPC and MPS. How we can prove that MPC and MPS summation always remains equals to 1. First of all, we will write the equation of MPC and MPS. This formula is MPC plus MPS is always equals to 1. And the formula of, we will take here the equation of this, Y is equals to C plus S. Y is income, C is consumption, S is saving. And if we take delta Y is equals to delta C plus delta S. And delta, if we divide both sides by delta Y, then delta Y upon delta Y is equals to delta C upon delta Y plus delta S upon delta Y. Delta Y cancel, it will be equals to 1, and delta C upon delta Y is the formula of MPC. So in place of delta C upon delta Y, we can write MPC, and delta S upon delta Y is the formula of MPS. We can write in place of delta S upon delta Y MPS. So here 1 is equals to MPC plus MPS. In this way, we can prove that the summation of MPC and MPS remains always equals to 1. Same as we can prove that APC and APS sum is always equals to 1. We will take the equation of Y is equals to C plus S. If both sides divided by Y only, then Y upon Y is equals to C upon Y and plus S upon Y. Y cancel is equals to 1, and C upon Y is the formula of APC. We can write APC in place of C upon Y, and in place of S upon Y, we can write APS. So APC and APS, the sum of both is always equals to 1. And the sum of MPC and MPS is remains always equals to 1. In this way, we can prove that. Next is, what is break-even point? Break-even point is that point where income and consumption both are equal. At that point, saving will be 0. So, break-even point in microeconomics, break-even point we can show with the help of total revenue and total cost curve. Where total revenue is equals to total cost, that point is known as break-even point in microeconomics, which deals with only individual units of the economy. But in macroeconomics, we can show break-even point with the help of income and consumption curve. Consumption curve always start from the y-axis, not from the origin, because consumption can't be 0. And income curve always start from the origin, and will be a 45-degree line which shows direct and positive relationship between income and output level, where the income curve, which is 45-degree line, and consumption curve, we start from the y-axis, where both curve intersect each other. Here B point is showing break-even point. And at this break-even point, saving will be zero. So break-even point in macroeconomics is always equals to where income and consumption are equal and saving is equals to zero. That point is known as break-even point. Next is how we can derive saving function curve with the help of consumption function curve. First of all, we will draw same diagram, break-even point diagram. In the beginning, we will draw 45-degree line which shows income line, and consumption curve always start from the y-axis. Consumption can never be zero, and the formula of consumption function is C is equals to C bar. This C bar is showing autonomous consumption, and plus BY. Here B is showing MPC, marginal propensity to consume, and marginal propensity to consume depends upon the level of income. That's why we can write BY. So the function of consumption can be shown with the help of this equation C bar plus BY, or we can write in this form also A plus BY. Here A is autonomous consumption and B is MPC and Y is the level of income. Where income and consumption curve intersect each other, that point is called break-even point. In this diagram, here A point is showing that income and consumption here both are equal, so break-even point is determined. And if we join this line to the another curve which we have drawn simultaneously in this curve, in this second diagram, we will write income on x-axis and saving on y-axis. If we join this dotted line to another curve which shows saving curve, and saving curve you know that always start from the below point of the origin. That's why saving curve start from the below point of the origin. After that saving will be zero. In the beginning saving is negative, after that saving is zero, and at last is saving start rising. This B point where the saving curve touches to x-axis, that point is called that saving is zero at the break-even point. When income and consumption both are equal, then saving will be zero, and we can derive this saving curve with the help of this consumption function curve. Saving function is always equals to minus C bar plus SY. This minus C bar is because autonomous consumption can't be zero, but at that time saving will be negative. If at zero level of income consumption is 20, then saving will be minus 20. So we can write minus C bar plus SY. This S shows MPS, marginal propensity to save, is the function of income. And MPS we can calculate by deducting 1 minus MPC. 1 minus MPC is always equals to MPS. So we can write SY. S is showing MPS, marginal propensity to save, which is the ratio of saving, change in saving and change in income. So this is the derivation of saving function curve with the help of consumption function curve. We can denote and we can derive also in this form also. The saving function is the mirror image of the consumption function. It shows the relationship between the level of saving and the level of income. In this diagram, Y line is always 45-degree line. Consumption is the function of income, so that consumption, this is green line shows consumption line, consumption function. It always start from the y-axis where both curve intersect each other. We can uh, take the point of intersection. That point will be called break-even point, where income line cuts to consumption curve. That point is break-even point. And to join this line to x-axis curve, and from below point of the origin, if we draw saving curve, here we have taken all these curves on a same diagram. But in first diagram, we have taken two different diagrams. One is income and consumption diagram. After that, we derive another diagram with the help of break-even point. So we can draw in any different types of this saving function from these two different situations. We can follow any one. So saving curve start from the below point of the origin, and at the point of break-even point where income and consumption are equal, at that point saving will be zero. After that, saving will start rising. Saving is also the function of income. Consumption is also the function of income. Next is, what factors influencing consumption function? Or we can say that what are the determinant factors of consumption function? Here so many factors affects our consumption. But according to J.M. Keynes, consumption function always shows the functional relationship between income and consumption, and Keynes assumed that all these factors which can affect our consumption level, that should remain always constant. But these factors, we have to study what factors can affect our consumption level. There are certain factors affecting the propensity to consume in the long run. One is distribution of income. If distribution of income is equal in our country, then all country people will be in same position. No one is rich, no one is poor. So if distribution of income is equal, then our propensity to consume will rise. If distribution of income is unequal, then society will divide it into two categories. One is rich, other is poor. Poor will become more poorer and rich will become more richer. In this case, our propensity to consume will fall. Next is fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is related to the government activities. You know that government impose taxes on consumers and on firms. Consumer pay direct taxes and firm pays indirect taxes to the government. If government impose more taxes on consumers, then consumers' propensity to consume will fall. And if government impose less taxes on consumer, then our propensity to consume or our consumption level will rise. Third point is change in business expectations. If business firms expect that business will move on in a better situation in future, then they will produce more and they will provide more employment opportunities. If there is a boom situation, more employment will generate, so that income level will also increase. And due to increase in income level, we can consume more, or our consumption level will also increase, and vice versa. Next is windfall gains and losses. Windfall gains are those gains which are unexpected or which are uncertain. For example, if a person win lottery, the lottery winning is a uncertain or unexpected event. May be won or may not be. Like bet, if a person take bet, in case of bet, he may be win or may be loser. So windfall gains are unexpected gains, unexpected profits. If you get unexpected profits, then your consumption will rise. If you not gain this unexpected profit, or if windfall losses occur in the economy, then consumption will fall. Next is liquidity preference. Liquidity preference means if people wants to keep more cash money in liquid form, then their propensity to consume will rise, because money is very liquid form of asset. If you have more liquidity, if you want to keep more cash money in liquid form, then your propensity to consume will rise. And if you keep less liquid money, then your propensity to consumption will fall. Next is substantial change in the rate of interest. If rate of interest increases, then we will save more money, and if saving is more, definitely consumption will be less, because saving is that part of our money income which is not spent on consumption. So if rate of interest increases, people will save more and consume less, and vice versa. And next factors are subjective factors, individual motives to save. If people are willing to save more money, people can save more money for different purposes. If some people are expected or give more importance to future, then they will save more. If people give more importance to present time period, then they will save less. So it depends upon the individual motives why people want to save. If people are very much interested to keep or to increase their standard of living, they will save more money. If they give more preference to future, they will save more money. If they love to their family members, they want to leave too much money for their family members, then they will save more money. So there are different motives behind saving money. If people save more money, then consumption will definitely fall. If people save less money, then consumption will. And next is business motives. If we want to increase our business, then we will save more and invest in our business enterprises. In this case, our consumption expenditure will be fall. So these are the factors which affects our consumption function. Next is determinants of consumption and saving. Now there are some factors which can affect both consumption and saving also. First is disposable income. Disposable income is that income which is received after paying the direct taxes. If our disposable income increases, then our consumption and saving both can increase. Second point is wealth. If our wealth is higher, if we have too much wealth, then we can consume more, and if we have less wealth, then we can consume less. Next is expectations. If we expect that price will increase in future, then we can consume more in present. If we give more preference to future time period, then we will spend less money in present. This depends upon our expectations, what we expect. If we expect that rate of interest will rise, then we will save more. And if we expect that rate of interest will not rise or will fall, then we will more consume. Next is real interest rate. Real interest rate, if increases, then saving will increase, consumption will fall, and if real interest rate falls, then saving will fall and consumption will rise. Next is household debt. If we can avail the facility of debt, then our consumption will increase. If we don't have debt facility, we can't borrow money for our consumption purposes, and we are not getting any commodities on credit basis, then our consumption will fall. So if debt facility or credit facility is available in the market, then consumption will rise, and vice versa. If not available this facility, consumption will fall. We can explain these factors in this form also. Level of income, as you know that level of income directly affects our consumption function. If level of income rises, consumption also rises, as well as income rise, consumption also rise. But consumption don't rise according to the level of income. Consumption rises, but not by the same proportion of level of income. As I have told you earlier, that distribution of national income, if distribution of national income is equal, then propensity to consume or consumption will be higher. If distribution of income is unequal, then consumption expenditure will fall. Nature of income, how we are earning our nature of income. Our nature of income depends that either our income is stable or unstable or variable. If our income is permanent, we are getting income in a stable form or permanent income hypothesis applicable, then our consumption expenditure will rise. But if our income is uncertain or unexpected, then it will be very careful in spending money, so it will consume less and save more. So, if family income or our income is stable or permanent, then our consumption will increase. But if our income and family income is unstable or variable or uncertain, unexpected, then our consumption will be less and saving will be more. On the other hand, if the family gets stable income, then it will have higher propensity to consume and lower propensity to save. These are the determinant factors of consumption and saving function, which are very important to know. Next is problem. If any numerical question came from this topic, like C is equal to 20 plus 0.8y, here consumption function is given, I is given 100, I is investment, and if you want to find out the marginal propensity to consume, then here MPC is 0.8, because in this consumption function, this 20 is showing autonomous consumption, which is equals to A or C bar, and 0.8 is B or MPC. So MPC remains always less than 1, because MPC value remains always in between of this range 0 and 1, and MPC is always greater than 0 and less than 1. So in this problem, MPC is 0.8. And if we want to calculate MPS, then MPC plus MPS is always equals to 1, and MPS is equals to 1 minus MPC. 1 minus 0.8 is equals to 0.2. Next problem is, if consumption function is given 50 plus 0.6y, if we want to calculate saving function, then saving function is always equals to minus A plus 1 minus by. So here 50 is autonomous consumption, so minus A will be minus 50, and 1 minus B means 1 minus 0.6, that will be 0.4. So saving function is always equals to minus A plus 1 minus by, so minus 50 plus 0.4y. And in next problem, saving is given minus 50 plus 0.2y. Find consumption function. So consumption function will be 50 plus 0.8y. 0.8, how you can get it? 1 minus 0.2 is equals to 0.8, and autonomous consumption will be positive. So 50 plus 0.8y. Next is conclusion. Now this absolute income hypothesis states that as income rises, consumption also rises and save less. But as well as income increases more, then consumption will definitely increase, but not by the same proportion of level of income. So consumption is always lie in between of 0 and 1, consumption always greater than 0 and less than 1. APC decline, then APS increases. When APC increases, APS decline. So absolute income hypothesis may be hold in the short run but not in the long run, but there are also evidence that the non-proportional relationship is arguable even in the short run. Now, this topic has been finished. Thank you so much.